go.
Have a day today, dog. Offense, great drive.
Go.
He's up.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by Atlantic Health System.
The Jets 360 content team on the move here at Clark Hinkle Field in Green Bay. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, joined by Packers.com senior writer Mike Spofford. Mike, thanks a lot for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so this is joint practices over the next 2 days, Jets-Packers. The Jets and the Jets fans and the Jets media have their storylines that they know and positions they want to see. But from a Packers perspective, what do you hope to see over the next couple days?
Well, the biggest thing is the Packers are trying to sort out who's going to start at guard in week one, because your Pro Bowl guard, Elton Jenkins, has moved over to left tackle to replace David Bakhtiari, who's recovering from the ACL. Right now there are 4 guys in a competition for 2 guard spots for the start of the season, and that's still 2 more preseason games here to sort things out. I think Saturday night against the Jets is going to be a big step forward for hopefully 1 or 2 of these guys.
Mike, a lot of times when people think about joint practices, they automatically jump to, wow, there could be a lot of fights. With that being said, how different do you think this week's going to be with the Jets and the Packers because of the 2 head coaches and how close Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur are?
Yeah, I think that's going to certainly be a factor here, and also just the fact that they've communicated a lot in terms of how they wanted to script these practices, what they want to get done, what each coach is going to do personnel-wise, matching up this and that. So I think that kind of stuff takes care of itself because there's been so much stuff worked out in advance. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of the extracurriculars.
Mike, I think from a Jets perspective, a lot has been made over the course of the pre-draft process about Zach Wilson and how he looks up to Aaron Rodgers in terms of his throwing ability. A lot has been talked about the quick release of Zach Wilson, similar to Rodgers. But covering the Packers since 2006, you've obviously seen Aaron Rodgers his whole career. What is it like? Like, what kind of a practice player are we going to see over the next couple days?
I mean, he's always going to do at least 1 or 2 things in a practice that are just going to make you go, wow, even if you've seen it, many times before. Just the other day, we were out here. It was actually closed to the public, but the practice was open to the media on Monday, and they're in a red zone period, and Rodgers is rolling out to the right, and a no-look pass back to his left, back across the middle, which you're not supposed to do. Receiver makes a diving catch in the end zone for a touchdown. There's no defender there. It wasn't even a dangerous pass. It's not what you're supposed to do, but that's what Aaron Rodgers does, and he does it something like that once a day.
All right, so folks, you're watching the Jets warm up right now. The Packers are actually across the way through the building on the other side. We're getting glimpses of both of these teams work out. Mike, I wanted to ask you about, you just mentioned about Rodgers and the wow factor. When I looked at his stats last year, just double checking, it's just unbelievable what he brought to the table last season. How valuable do you think this might be for Jets rookie quarterback Zach Wilson in terms of watching how this offense works? Because one thing that Saleh continues to point out is that this is their 3rd year in this scheme, and you're seeing a lot of precision, a lot of great detail.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw here in Green Bay from 2019, Matt LaFleur's first season, to 2020, we saw the offense go from a middle-of-the-pack offense and a team that got to the NFC Championship game largely on the strength of its defense, frankly, to then becoming the #1 scoring offense in the league in 2020. Aaron Rodgers wins his 3rd MVP. The progression from year 1 to year 2 for everybody in this offense was astronomical. Now, you're not going to make that big of a jump again from year 2 to year 3 if you're Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. There's not too much further you can really go. But Zach Wilson is going to see, if he watches Aaron Rodgers in these practices, he's going to see how he studies everything at the line of scrimmage, the things that he notices, the checks that he makes. He's not necessarily going to understand all of them, but you have to try to watch Aaron Rodgers' eyes and what he's looking for and then what he's keying off of to try to get the offense in that best possible play, because he does that as well as anyone in the league.
What did you make of Aaron Rodgers' new golf cart, a little present from his left tackle?
Yeah, that's been a cute little story here in training camp, the Aston Martin thing. Rodgers had been bugging Bakhtiari for years and saying that he needs to get his quarterback an Aston Martin, and so he got him one, but in the form of a golf cart. So the fans love it. Rodgers, drives it through the parking lot and across the street to get to practice over here. The fans kind of go crazy when he comes out every day and takes his little drive. So it's been a lot of fun.
Jets fans, take a long look at Aaron Rodgers right there, because you're not going to be seeing him Saturday when the Jets and the Packers actually play in the preseason. In fact, Rodgers will not be playing in the preseason at all. There's the split screen. So as we look to our right, Zach Wilson getting in some sprints before practice, what is he going to be seeing across the way? Because the Packers have a new defensive coordinator in Joe Barry. It seems like the Packers are going to continue to stay in a 3-4. But can you talk about some players, the standouts, and also what's different in camp so far?
Well, defensively, there's not a whole lot that we've seen so far that you would say schematically is a lot different. Now, I think maybe that could change when we get into the regular season, but the mainstays are all here on defense. You've got Kenny Clark anchoring the defensive line. You have Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith as your top two outside linebackers. And then a first-round pick from a couple years ago, Rashawn Gary, is a third outside linebacker. And you'll see packages where all three of those outside linebackers are on the field at the same time. Then in the secondary, Jair Alexander, one of the top cornerbacks in this league, and a safety tandem that's now playing their third season together. Adrian Amos, a free agent from a couple years ago. Darnell Savage, a first-round pick from a couple years ago. So these guys, this may be a new system, but this is a group of defensive players that's played a lot of football together, and that's really what's going to have to carry the day for the Packers on defense.
I think a lot of Jets fans, and I'll say I'm excited to see a lot of the one-on-one matchups. We've talked about Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned Jair Alexander. This Jets receiving room is probably the most improved unit on the roster, but this whole week to me is almost like a litmus test. Like where are you individually? Where are you as a team? And for the receivers, going up against the secondary that you just detailed, like Jair Alexander, I'm really excited to see that matchup. Is there any matchup in particular that you're excited to see?
Well, honestly, I'm curious to see. We were just talking about the defense and the new scheme with Joe Barry. I'm curious to see what exactly Joe Barry dials up just to try to challenge Zach Wilson in practice, because you know how it is in the preseason games when when it's on TV and all that. The playbooks get kind of vanilla. Teams don't scheme up a whole lot. These practice settings, I think these coaches they're going to challenge. They want to challenge each other, and they trust each other that the scheme stuff isn't going to get out, that other teams aren't going to find out about it. So I think we're going to see the Packers be maybe a little bit more exotic on defense than we've seen so far during training camp, just because of that element of a different team, a different quarterback on the other side.
Aaron Rodgers' top target, of course, Davante Adams. You watch him out here daily, Mike. What makes this guy so special?
Well, for one thing, he never stops working. I mean, it does. If there's a special teams period or whatever that he's not involved in, he is always off to the side finding somebody to throw to him, or he's working on his releases and everything else. He has footwork at the line of scrimmage for his releases that I think is second to none in the league. He is so difficult to guard coming off of the line of scrimmage. But then, of course, if you give him the cushion where he doesn't have to make the move at the line of scrimmage, he's got the moves downfield to get open as well. He's become a complete receiver since he arrived here in Green Bay as a second-round pick in 2014. And he around here, they certainly consider him the best in the league, and if not the best, among those elite for sure.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us here. Enjoy the rest of joint practices, and any food recommendations before you go? One place.
Play Bistro on the east side of Green Bay. I'm telling you, you want a really nice meal in a real good, cozy place. You can't go wrong.
Oh, Ethan will go to the Bistro. He'll take you up on that.
Bistro. Well, any Jets fans, if you're coming out to Green Bay, make sure to check out Play Bistro. Mike, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
All right, you bet. Thanks for having me,
Mike.
guys.
I think we're watching the LaFleurs right now. There's another storyline, and storylines aplenty here in Green Bay.
Before we get there, I just want to say that Jets football is back. You can see the green and white this season at MetLife Stadium, beginning with the 2021 home opener on Sunday, September 19th against the New England Patriots. Secure your seats at nyjets.com/tickets.
We're about a month away.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. Well, let's talk about the LaFleur, since right now we do have the Mike Matt split screen here. I mean, this whole storyline of Saleh being the best man at Matt LaFleur's wedding, now being both head coaches of their respective teams, and Matt's little brother being the offensive coordinator of the Jets. I mean, this must be a really cool experience for all parties involved.
You know, wouldn't you like to have been a fly on the wall when Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh were graduate assistants at Central Michigan way back in I think it was 2004 when they started their careers together, their coaching careers together. And you mentioned the LaFleur brothers. Mike LaFleur is taking over the reins here of the Jets offense, and Matt LaFleur in 2 years as head coach of the Green Bay Packers, 26-6, so he's off to a great start. But that's why I think these practices are going to be so constructive for both teams, because you have strong relationships up top and a lot of collaboration. So Saleh can talk to LaFleur and say, this is some of the stuff that I want to get done. And conversely, you get the same thing from Matt LaFleur to Saleh. So I think we're going to have a great week in store starting today. Obviously, the teams practice tomorrow, and then the game across the street on Saturday.
You know, we're watching the receivers right now. Just an injury update real quick. I did see Braxton Berrios going through the motions there. So Braxton Berrios, who was...
He practiced yesterday.
Well, all right. Well, then he's back.
He'll be out there today.
So right now we're taking a look at the Packers running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Now, obviously, practice a little bit of a different setting, because I don't anticipate the Jets defense to be tackling either one of those guys, but the one-on-one matchups, you know, it's going to be key, especially for somebody like Aaron Jones, who's a real threat out of the backfield. We can see the Jets linebackers in coverage, which obviously we see on a daily basis, but a little different when the intensity raises up a notch here at joint practice.
Yeah, how about Saleh, who was asked about Mosley today, and he just continues to rave about him, what he brings to the table from a leadership standpoint, and also how well he's played here in training camp. Of course, the two veterans out there, C.J. Mosley with Jared Davis as well. So you talk about those matchups. The matchup within a matchup is possibly them locking horns with Aaron Jones. But how about the Jet safeties too? Because Marcus May out here on the field. LaMarcus Joyner, though, some back spasms, so he will not be practicing.
Also, we talked about Davante Adams, who's on your screen right now, how good of a receiver he is. This Jets secondary, particularly at corner, is so young. So to go against somebody whose footwork is second to none, as Mike Spofford said earlier, I think it'll be a really invaluable experience. And also, you have to remember that the Packers receiving core, it might be highlighted by Davante Adams, but that's a pretty good group with some guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equanimous St. Brown. All of their receivers, or a good handful, have developed a rapport with Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Scantling's become a very productive player, and Rodgers got one of his favorite targets back in Randall Cobb. He's here as well. It seems like yesterday we were talking about Amari Rodgers coming out of Clemson. Of course, he's lining up here with the Packers, and you mentioned Devin Funchess as well. So this is, yes, they got a star up top in Davante Adams, perhaps the top receiver in the entire game, but it is a deep crew, and Aaron Rodgers knows where to go with the football. In fact, Nathan Shepard said yesterday that one thing he doesn't want to get caught doing is taking the bait on the hard count.
You know who somebody we haven't really talked about? You can see him right here, kind of through the traffic. It's Rob Tunyon, number 85. He's somebody that really was a touchdown machine for the Packers last season.
Well, the Packers averaged 31.8 points a game in the regular season last season. That was number one in the National Football League. And Rodgers completed more than 70% of his passes. He was more accurate last year than he had been in all his previous years. Runaway MVP winner. That's the third time he's done that in the National Football League. If a guy can continue to get better, we've seen it with Tom Brady, you would say much the same with Aaron Rodgers.
All right, well, we got to wrap up this show. One more topic here. We haven't talked about the Jets' defensive line. Quinnen Williams scheduled to return maybe on a limited basis. We're not too sure what we're going to see because Quinnen has practiced with the Jets, but he really hasn't taken a whole lot of reps, no team reps. And this Packers offensive line that Mike Spofford was talking about, they're a little banged up right now, so this should be a favorable matchup for the Jets this week.
Yeah, I agree, because the Packers are dealing with some issues, not only outside of tackle, but who's going to step up from them at guard. And the Jets' defensive line has been the story of training camp so far, but Carl Lawson will not have an opportunity to get after Rodgers game time. He'll just have to hover around the tower here on the practice field.
We'll be back tomorrow. Jets-Packers joint practices. If you haven't seen One Jets Drive, make sure to check it out. All New York Jets platforms. We will see you same time tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern.